No more oversight, no more accountability for MI5, no more accountability for the police. We can tell you that people have been murdered in this country by the intelligence agencies. It's time for good police to out the wrong, the bad police. Why won't the MPs stand up? Why won't the MPs stand up?
They are scared!
They're scared because they're compromised and the intelligence agencies have dirt on them. We are calling on retired police officers. We're calling on retired MI5 agents to stand up and to expose the criminality in the police and expose the criminality in the intelligence agencies. Folks, right now, there is a covert harassment program running in the United Kingdom. If you are an activist, if you are someone who exposes corruption in your local government, you will be targeted. Police need to be held to account for this covert harassment program. Folks, we need to stand up and reclaim our police force. Good police officers need to out the criminal element in the police. To dare to expose them. We can tell you that there are thousands of people in the United Kingdom right now complaining of being targeted by the intelligence agencies. Why are they so secretive? It's nothing to do with national security. It's because they're engaged in wrongdoing. Why am I gaining free downloading pornography? Other statutory agencies to target ordinary men and women.
In 2018, those who've been thrust onto the front lines of the battle against the utterly fraudulent post-9/11 surveillance state have been taking to the streets in peaceful protest in record numbers. This week, these worldwide protests culminated in International Targeted Individual Day, spearheaded by targeted individual activists Scott Lewis, Shyla Avance, Lindsay Bowman, Alison Ireland, and their activist peers. From Chicago to Bangkok, to Warsaw to London, to San Francisco to Tokyo, to Paris to Los Angeles, to Vancouver to Sydney, and far, far beyond. Meanwhile, a wealthy benefactor of the targeted individual cause coordinates the purchase of mass-market commercial billboards exposing the targeted individual epidemic. Come hell or high water, nothing seems to deter the resilience and determination of those individuals targeted with surveillance abuse, organized stalking, and directed energy weapon targeting in the post-9/11 era. Historically, a little-known surreal phenomenon carried out against a relatively small number of people. Targeted individuals were usually ridiculed as delusional or otherwise unfit in their ability to discern reality. However, as the targeted individual phenomenon exploded in scale and scope immediately following the attacks on 9/11, there is now enough credible testimony, official documentation, confirmed news accounts, and whistleblower affidavits for targeted individuals to be taken seriously. Very, very seriously, in fact. The front page headlines of the Ed Snowden revelations in 2013, documenting the existence of a massive illicit NSA program of international surveillance abuse, also lent more than a little credibility to the targeted individual movement. Then the world witnessed how Ed Snowden became the most widely known and most wanted targeted individual in history. Try as they might, the traditional mass media couldn't bury Snowden's story of being targeted on the run to Russia, and afterwards, with a barrage of fraudulent legal charges, kangaroo court orders, slander, surveillance abuse, and other tactics of highly organized sabotage. It was also around this time that Julian Assange became targeted, in a heavy-handed manner, To such an extreme he had to take permanent refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in England and live completely isolated from the outside world. Like Snowden, the traditional mass media couldn't completely bury the reality that Assange was being targeted with surveillance abuse and an organized stalking campaign. Then in 2017, news of the U.S. diplomatic delegation to Cuba being targeted with directed energy weapons and organized stalking made major headlines worldwide. Try as the powers that shouldn't be might to bury this story coming out of Cuba with a gag order on the diplomats' ability to speak publicly about what happened to them, and via vague characterizations of the directed energy weapon attacks that these diplomats suffered as health attacks or sonic attacks. This news story still made major headlines across the U.S. and worldwide for months. Then later in 2017, celebrity journalist Ronan Farrow published an in-depth New Yorker magazine tell-all on Harvey Weinstein and a company Mr. Weinstein hires to conduct organized stalking campaigns called Black Cube that literally openly advertises its organized stalking services online. In this groundbreaking and widely circulated article, Ronan Farrow details his findings that prove Mr. Weinstein directs organized stalking campaigns against actors, actresses, journalists, and just about anyone he happens not to like for any reason. As if all this incontrovertible evidence that organized stalking is real and utterly out of control 21st century phenomenon wasn't enough, in mid-2018, news headlines reported that Julian Assange had become targeted with even more extreme organized stalking that severed his internet connection, phone service, as well as his ability to meet with his doctor, family, or any visitors outside of his legal team.
No more surveillance abuse! 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 End surveillance abuse! End organised stalking! MI5, GCHQ, the Home Office, we're putting you on notice! We are saying enough is enough!
August 29th, 2018 marked the first annual International Targeted Individual Day and was the culmination of an unprecedented number of 100% peaceful worldwide targeted individual protests that have been organized this year. This apex of targeted individual demonstrations was spearheaded by targeted individual activists Scott Lewis, Shyla Avance, Lindsay Bowman, Alison Ireland, and their activist peers, who worked tirelessly coordinating the event over 7 months and also managed a Facebook page to rally support for this apex of peaceful protest. Some of these protests were simply staged by a pair of targeted individuals handing out flyers and vocalizing grievances in city centers. Other demonstrations were much more elaborate and included a group of targeted individuals holding up large banners, with others in the group dispersed at the edge of their location's perimeter, holding smaller demonstration signs while vocalizing grievances, and still others intermingling with the crowds walking by to hand out flyers or to greet members of the media that covered the event. In the demonstration in Massachusetts was a very focused and elaborate one that honed in on students of the famous MIT Technology College. This demonstration was set up on the MIT campus around a large table with a banner hanging over the side, multiple flyer handouts, and even free copies of the book on mind control technologies, Project Soulcatcher, for students showing the most interest in the cause. A few local mass media news outlets did cover these events, as well as a number of alternative online media channels. The Meigs YouTube channel even covered the Chicago demonstration via live stream. Even more significantly, a famous, wealthy benefactor of the targeted individual cause coordinated the purchase of mass-market commercial billboards that expose the organized stalking epidemic to dramatically amplify the effect of all the protests in 2018, as well as reach a dramatically wider audience. These billboards were placed in the Los Angeles, Vancouver, Salisbury, Massachusetts, and Lansing, Michigan advertising markets. The Los Angeles billboard was literally placed along the busiest freeway in the world, the 405 freeway, and at its most traveled intersection at the LAX airport. And there was an additional Los Angeles ad buy in the form of poster advertising at the famous Beverly Center shopping complex. The Vancouver, Canada billboards were placed inside the city's highly traveled subway in the form of a large-scale billboard subway car train wrap and posters along the walls of the subway station. The advertising in Massachusetts and Michigan were traditional large-scale mass media billboards placed along the highly traveled freeways. Internet Party co-chair and targeted individual Susie Dawson, who had to flee her lifelong home in New Zealand and seek refuge in Russia to escape her targeting, has observed that the organized stalking targeted individual phenomenon has now entered into the global cultural zeitgeist, and the world is on the verge of more and more groundbreaking revelations that expose organized stalking that will ultimately lead to the utter end of these surreal and grotesque stalking crimes. Judging by the uncanny resilience, determination, and skill of the incredible people who find themselves targeted by the global intelligence complex, who have organized and executed these protests worldwide, the targeted individual movement is poised for a quantum leap forward in the months and years to come.
Organised stalking is reaching epidemic levels globally. Directed energy weapons are being used. This is not science fiction, madam. They're real.
Surveillance abuse, end it now. End the covert corruption of the medical professionals, the hospitals, silent programs run by MI5, run by the local MPs, run by your local government, civilian vigilante groups, end organised stalking, end secret weapons, mind control, no torture programs, end it now.